Hey guys, good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. All right, so it's time to move on. It's time to move on with this sign. So the last thing you guys saw, this was in clamps. I just popped it out of the clamps a little while ago. It's the next morning, or next midday actually. My seam came out really good. I'm going to sand that all down. I have to sand it down smooth for my transfer anyway. And I've already started filling some of these knot holes. I'm using a combination actually. Some of the ones that aren't real deep, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing. But some of the ones that weren't real deep, I just used the medium brown, which is really good. Oh, by the way, here's a note for you. If you are storing your Starbond, like I do, in a bin like this, if it should happen to fall over and you don't catch it, and it sits there for a while, it's gonna get nasty on you. So what the cool thing is, Starbond is really cool about sending extra bottles and extra tips. I think my bottle here is going to be fine. I'm probably just going to put a different cap on there, take this cap off, but actually even the way it is, I was using it this morning. Forgot to put my gloves on. Let me put my gloves on because I really don't want this stuff on my hands. Anyway, so what I decided to do is, again, on the shallow stuff, anyway, to get back, just be careful that your bottles don't fall over, because they'll, I gotta somehow put something in here to keep these things standing upright. If they're standing upright, oh, you can see the black kind of fell over too. So I gotta find a better way to store them. Anyway, but the cool thing, like I say, Starbond always seems to send extra bottles and stuff, so I'm really happy about that. All right, so on the shallow ones, I'm using the medium brown. When I've got the ones that are deep, though, what I'm using is underneath to fill the gap. I'm using the gap filler, the thick gap filler, and I really like using the combination of the two, because this allows you can fill the gap with this. Let's see if I can make this work on camera. And it'll probably go down in there, fill that gap. I'll let that set for a minute. Then I can come back and put the brown on top, and it'll give me that, you know, that color that I want. And I could have used the Rangate stuff with this, but honestly, I'm really happy. I'm much more happy with the Starbond than I am using the hot melt system. So I just thought it was more appropriate for this as well. So let's see. That hasn't been drying very long, but just for purposes here, now when I put the brown over that, so now the brown is on top of the thick gap filler. So I've still got some little ones in here, touch up, but if you can come over to the other end, that's where I've got some pretty good gaps. So what my plan is, use this thick gap filler, fill those gaps, let it seep down a little bit. Like it is. Then I'm going to let that set, and then I'll come back in a few minutes and I'll put the medium brown on top of it. Then I've got pretty good size ones over here. And you know, to be honest, I still haven't decided what I'm doing on the edge on this. I've got everything else kind of figured out, but I haven't decided what I'm going to do on the edge on this. So it could be that this stuff won't show anyway. I'm just not sure yet. I'm still rolling that around in my head. So I don't know exactly what edge I'm going to put on here yet. I got a ways to go before I get that, before I have to work on that. But anyway, thanks again, Starbond. Love your stuff. I use it all the time. I used it to repair some glasses I did the other day. It's just amazing. I love that product. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of these fills. Then I'm going to come back and put a finish sand, or I'm going to put a sand on it and get all these bumps down. And I need to have a nice smooth surface because we're going to do a freezer paper transfer on this. So when we come back, we'll be doing the transfer. All right, boys and girls, we're back and we've got this thing ready to do the layout. So let me show you what I've done here. I've got it pretty much surfaced down as much as I need to for the transfer process.
Come over here because we do have, remember how we talked about the white and the glare?
Yeah, we got a little bit of a glare coming in from the French doors there. But anyway, I pretty much filled all the gaps. I used the Starbond like I talked about. I used the, in fact, it's right here. Let me grab it real quick. Yeah, the Starbond gap filler, and then the accelerator. And I think I've got all of my gaps filled that I need to. But if I need to do more, I will as I go along. But I think everything is pretty much filled and stabilized. So I'm really happy with the way it's coming out so far. I just love this white poplar. And again, you can see the grain of the book match here, which I can't wait to get a finish on it. So to see how this stuff looks when it's all done. Anywho, so I've got my, I did my mock layout, like you guys know I do, and this allows me to set up my registration marks so that when I have my real layout, this is done again through Rapid Resizer, and when I have my real layout, I'll know exactly where it goes. Now this is a little bit out of proportion for the board size. If it had been up to me, I probably would have made the board a little bit narrower, but James really wanted it to be 24 by 42, which is really net. That's exactly what I came up with. But I still it's going to look great. It's going to look fantastic. And the cool thing is, the more board that's on here, the way I'm going to do this, it's going to show more board. And this white poplar is just so spectacular. I don't mind showing a lot of the board. And this area with all the knots and all this stuff, I think is going to look really cool. So anyway, so what we're going to do now, we're going to go on and we're going to print out the real layout with freezer paper, and then we'll come back, we'll do the transfer process, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so we have got the freezer paper transfer all done. I've got them all taped together, so I think and it turns out that they're exactly the same size layout as my mock. So what I wanted to show you here, and I know a lot of you guys like using the clear transparency sheet. I like the freezer paper a lot better for my transfer, but the issue that it has is that you can't see through it when it's face down. So what I do is I use a piece of cardboard, and I put my registration marks with a straight edge and a ballpoint pen, and all I do is I mark really hard all of my registration points. So I've got these here and these here, and if you look at, well, that one I marked a little too hard and it actually cut the paper. But if you look at it from that side, I can really see where those registration marks are. So that gives me vision from the other side of where I want that thing to actually sit. So now let's see if it comes out like I think it will, like I hope it will. So now I have to flip it end for end. And so see, you can see my registration marks there. So I'm lining these two up and these two. I know I'm all over the place. So I'm lining those two up, and then this mark is my top to bottom, my horizontal. That lines up with that mark. This lines up with that mark. So now I know I should be pretty much top to bottom centered and left to right centered. Then I will try and tape it in place. in this particular instance, I'm going to tape it in place at the top. Sorry.
Hear your tummy growling.
Well, I was hoping they didn't hear that on the camera. I haven't had breakfast yet. I'm running on pure coffee and creamer at this point.
Creamer with a little coffee.
Yeah, mostly creamer. All right, so I think I've got a pretty good hinge at the top, and that's what we're looking for, is a hinge at the top. So now I'm going to use I like the sharp edge on the router bit depth gauge, and I am just going to rub that thing. I'm going to work step by step. Sorry about the noise outside. Dad's out there cutting some paneling for his new room. You guys will probably see that pretty soon on one of his senior moments.
No, it's not a room that he's moving into.
No, that's right. Yeah, we made that mistake. Yeah. No, it's his new playroom, basically. Anyway, so I don't need to do this. I'm going to go ahead and do all of this off camera. You can see kind of what I'm doing here. I don't want to take any more time than possible. So as soon as I finish up and get to the other end, we'll turn the camera back on, and then I'll reveal it and see how it looks. All right, guys, so a couple things that I've learned from doing this transfer process, being as all these seams have an overlap where I cut off one side and then it overlaps so it's twice as thick here. What I do is I end up using actually the corner of my little plastic piece here in order to do that. But I worked on it probably another 10 minutes after you guys left, and pretty happy with the transfer all in all. Even where the seams were, like you can see, here's one where the seam was. The seam was here. There was another big seam. Oh yeah, there was another big seam there. But because I used the corner of that thing where that double overlap was, actually came out pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that all in all. So we are ready to move on to the carving. I think this is as good as I need it to be. We'll move on to the carving next, so we'll be right back. Hey guys and gals, all right, it's time to make some sawdust. It's finally time to get to carving. I've been like chomping at the bit to carve some of this white poplar again. So I'm going to do, like I normally do, I'm going to do the hardest part first. It's hard just to say it. I'm going to make these outset. This is going to be an carved away block basically with outset letters in here. So I've got my carving liner bit in. I might be able to do that with the profile bit, but I'm going to go ahead and use my carving liner. I've got it set at about 1/8 of an inch, something like that. So I'm going to do these outset letters first, and I'm using my little Makita router. It's a great little router. It's not my favorite, but it's a really good little router. So that's the one that I keep set up for my carving liner. So let's get this going. Oh, Vicky's having to block Magnum off. He's trying to get in here. Yeah, he's wanting to get in here and get in the middle of it. All right, here we go. There's a switch there somewhere. There it is. right, so I did my my carving liner around there. Now I'm going to come back with my profile bit, and I'm going to go around those again and then cut the inside of that box, and we'll move on to the rest. Okay guys, I want to explain something. So this is the profile bit, and if you go back and watch that, I don't know if you were really watching, but if you go back and watch it, you'll notice I didn't cut deeper, a wider line in that same groove. I went just outside of it, but close enough that it would cut away the extra that was close to the actual letter. So remember why I'm doing this, guys. The reason I'm doing this is that when I go in with my 90, or I might use a 60, I'll probably use a 90 though. When I go in to take this away, it's just that much less that I need to get close to that letter. So that's the only reason I'm really cutting that wide line, just to give myself some room for error when I go in with my background bit. So now I'm going to back this off a little bit. That was set at about 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to back it off to about 3/16, and I'm going to cut this, the inside of this box. Here we go. Okay, pretty happy with that. So now I'll put the other bit in, the 90-degree bit, and I'll come back and do that background. All right, folks, guess what? I messed up. So here was my original plan. My original plan, these are going to be outset. So this is all going to be background around here. I was actually going to make these inset, but I didn't realize that I messed up and made them outset instead. I just loss of concentration, and I made these outset. So here's how I'm going to fix it. I'm actually still going to carve this away. This is all going to be background, but now the whole thing is going to be inside of a box. So now I'm going to go with my profile bit again, set at about 3/16, and I'm going to carve around the outside. I just drew this box here, and I'm going to make that, and then the background will come around that. I explained that to Vicki. She didn't quite understand, but So if you don't, you will in a minute. Here we go. Okay, so that's what I was talking about. Now I'll go ahead and put in the cleanup bit, the 90-degree V-groove, and do the background in here. And then this will remain just like it is, and then the background around everything will treat this box just like it was an outset box. So we'll be right back. Okay guys, that's what I'm doing there. I decided to use the dimple effect on this. I really want a cool texture back there. So just rather than taking a whole bunch of time, you guys can see what I did there. I've got the, using the 90-degree, I can't remember whether I told you, using the 90-degree at about 3/16, something like that. So I'm going to finish this up off camera. We'll be right back. Okay, there she is. So now that I realized how to do that, I'm glad I did it that way. Oh, sorry about that sound. Dad's working on his in his room, running the saw, obviously. Anyway, we just roll with it. So anyway, I'm really glad I did it that way because I think that's going to look really cool. So that, you know what guys, that's a lot for this video. So we are going to close it down here. The next video, we'll get the rest of these outset letters done, and then we'll move on with the process because I got a lot of things coming up on here, again, different than I've ever done. So I'm excited to show you guys what I have in mind here. I think you'll kind of like it. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. We love you all. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. And don't forget, if you do subscribe, when you subscribe, click that little bell icon so you get notified because we do 4 videos every week, brand new. I think we're approaching 1,000 videos, which is hard to believe. But anyway, we owe it to you guys. We couldn't keep doing this, what we do, without your guys' support. So thank you so much. We love you so much. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.